Welcome back, Kevin Powers again. I want to ask you something. Have you ever started gaining momentum in your business, but then you lost it? You had a great day, week, or month where everything clicked. You were in focus, you were energized, firing on all cylinders, and then you thought, yes, this is it. This is what it feels like when things are really working. But then 2 days later, it was gone. You were back to your old patterns. You were back to procrastinating, overthinking, and then self-doubt started creeping in and showed up when you really needed confidence the most. Maybe you went to a seminar, hired a coach, read a book that generally changed the way you thought about something. And for a few weeks, everything felt different. Everything changed and you started building momentum. But then that feeling faded and you fell back into old familiar patterns. And did it leave yourself wondering, what did I do wrong? Well, here's the answer. You didn't do anything wrong. You just ran into an unconscious ceiling. A ceiling is when you reach the limit of what you believe that you're capable of. We break through, we have a great idea, we start moving towards it, and then our old unconscious patterns that hadn't been transformed or hadn't been fixed rear their ugly head and start bringing you back down to the level you were. So that's what I call a ceiling. And once you know what they are, they can be removed. And that's what today is all about. Here's something I want to be very clear about. Most breakthroughs fade. Neurovelocity and the flow state feels amazing for the first few days, but oftentimes it slips away. People fall back into their old familiar patterns. That's not a motivational problem. It's not a discipline problem. It's not a character flaw. It's really an unconscious problem. It's a mechanism problem. So let me explain what I mean. Remember when I talked about the unconscious mind is often pulling the strings and we don't really know it? It's that ancient survival system running its scripts in the background that pulls the strings before our conscious mind can even get involved. It's those hidden beliefs and emotions. It's your primal unconscious survival mode, those ancient scripts that have been running for your entire lifetime that kick in to sabotage you and keep you at the same level. And why do those unconscious processes come back? The truth is, it's there to keep you safe and keep you at a level where you feel safe. So when you start gaining momentum and when you start taking off and you start being successful, your unconscious mind brings you down to keep you safe. It's like a thermostat. Say your thermostat is set to 68 degrees. The room heats up and goes up to 75. What does the thermostat do? It kicks in and brings the temperature back to 68. Not because 65 is wrong, but because that's where the thermostat is set. And your unconscious mind sets the thermostat. Your unconscious beliefs and unconscious emotions and your unconscious identity sets the thermostat. So I gave this a name. I call it the phantom operator. Because what it does is it's running in your unconscious mind without you being aware of any of it. So when you have a breakthrough, your performance heats up to 75, but the old unconscious kicks in. It's that phantom operator says, that's not the setting of the thermostat. And it fires back into the procrastinations and you fall back into old patterns. And that's why we don't know why we begin to sabotage. We don't know why we begin to procrastinate. We don't know why we start to lose our confidence all of a sudden, but it's that phantom operator hiding in the shadows that brings you back to 68 degrees every time. Not because you're weak, not because you don't want it badly enough, not because you're defective or broken in some way. It's just because the thermostat hasn't been reset. And here's a critical thing that most transformation programs completely miss. You cannot reset the thermostat with a technique. You have to reset the thermostat at your identity level that's running those ancient scripts that are holding you back. Most transformation doesn't go deep enough to make permanent change. It doesn't go as deep as the identity level. It's just surface stuff. I've seen people that go to these seminars and They've just been pumped up at the surface level. When you do an identity transformation, that is the deepest form of transformation. If you change your identity, you can change everything. Transformation that becomes permanent is a shift in the person's identity. So here are 4 specific places where the phantom operator or your unconscious processes installs that thermostat or that ceiling you're reaching. And these 4 hidden barriers that no amount of techniques or strategy or motivation can get past because they exist below the level where surface techniques, strategy, and motivations operate. So here are the 4 ceilings, we'll call them. Ceiling 1 is identity. This is the deepest ceiling, the one that controls everything else. Who do you truly believe you are? Meaning not the version you present to the world, but the version where your phantom operator runs its default setting. Your identity is a quiet belief system that runs underneath everything that dictates what you deserve, what is possible for someone like you, what level of success is available to you, and what level of success you will reach. One of my favorite quotes is, "You can never out-earn your identity." If you believe that you're a $50,000 a year person, you'll never go beyond that. And every time you get close to a result that exceeds your identity, something goes wrong. The deal almost closes and then falls through. The momentum builds, then mysteriously collapses. The breakthrough happens, but 48 hours later, you're back to where you started. That's not bad luck. That's your identity ceiling. You've hit the edge of the ceiling, which you believe is possible for you. You're just doing what your identity is programmed to do, which is to stay consistent. And just like the thermostat, it stops you before you get too hot. And that's exactly what your identity is programmed to do. Okay, let's go to ceiling number 2, your mission. Having a purpose is not just a nice thing to have. Purpose is fuel. When you don't have a compelling reason that is bigger than the discomfort of doing hard things, your phantom operator wins every time. Those unconscious beliefs will continue to pull you back because the survival system is always going to favor comfort over effort unless there is something pulling hard enough in the other direction. And here's how you know the mission ceiling is operating. You work hard, but your motivation keeps failing. You constantly have to re-inspire yourself. You get excited on a project quickly, but then it loses steam, it loses energy just as fast as you acquired it. And when success does arrive, it feels hollow and empty. It has no meaning. It doesn't mean you're broken at all. It just means you're working without a mission. And your mission would be a grand vision for your life. Wouldn't it be awesome to wake up and you're on a mission? And when I got my mission, I jumped out of bed, excited to create the life of my dreams every day, and I still do. Okay, here's ceiling number 3. It's called emotional baggage. This is the one that people usually don't want to talk about. All those old fears, old anger, old guilt, old shame, and those old patterns have been running in the back of your mind and have been running since you were 8 years old. And the emotional experiences that ended years ago are still stored in your nervous system, and they consume energy and are still generating responses like procrastination, avoidance, self-sabotage, and resistance. Remember that phantom operator I talked about? It's the phantom pain from a source that no longer exists. The phantom operator is your unconscious mind. We all have emotional baggages from our negative experiences that we haven't fully cleaned out. And the reason why we don't is to keep us safe. Our neurology is programmed so when we have negative experiences, we hold on to those experiences, hoping that holding on keeps us from experiencing those things again. So here's how you know the emotional ceiling is operating. You have reactions that are out of proportion to what happened. Do you ever see those guys who have road rage? Well, it's not because of that one incident they got cut off in traffic. It's a buildup of anger and a buildup of emotion of baggage, and they just explode in traffic. You feel exhausted in a way that sleep doesn't fix. Certain situations can trigger a response that belongs to a different time in your life. Your nervous system can't tell the difference between what's going on now and what's going on back then. The energy that should be going to building your business or building your amazing future or creating the life of your dream goes towards carrying the weight of these old emotions. I call these emotional blocks because they block everything that you want in life. They block your success. They block you from feeling good. They block you from having the depth of the relationships, the depth of the business. They keep you from living the life of your dreams. Emotions are extremely powerful, more powerful than thought. We can't just change our emotions by changing the thought alone. Let's move on to ceiling number 4, alignment. This is a sneaky one because from the outside, it looks like indecision or inconsistency, but it's actually something much more specific. When you're out of alignment, you have different parts of you that are pulling in different directions simultaneously. One part wants to build something huge, build a huge business, create the life of your dreams, play a bigger game in your business. And the other part is terrified the success will cost you your relationships that you care about. One part wants to be fully visible, and the other part has learned that being seen leads to judgment. And so on. And so what happens is when you're disaligned, you cycle forward and then backwards. Big move followed by retreat. Take 2 steps forward and 1 step back. You start to gain momentum and then you crash. And here's how you know the alignment ceiling is in operation. You work incredibly hard. Your effort feels like it's canceling itself out. Because it is. You're using half of your energy moving forward, the other half talking yourself out of it, taking the action. A part of you is sabotaging it. The problem is not strategy. It's an internal civil war. Have you ever felt yourself battling yourself? Part of you wants that healthy body, but the other part of you wants to eat chips on the couch. Part of you wants to play big in your business, but the other part doesn't feel safe and likes to play small. So this isn't a strategy problem. It's an internal civil war, and it keeps running until the parts are integrated and aligned. Now that you understand the 4 ceilings, here's a diagnostic tool you can use right now to identify which one is running. I call it the free model, F-R-E-E. And if you get this, you can gain a new level of freedom. F is for focus. Where's your attention going right now? Because the phantom operator controls your results by controlling what you pay attention to. We all have a negative bias, and we tend to focus on things that are negative. And if your focus is on what's wrong, what's missing, what hasn't worked, your thoughts are generating a reality that will match your thinking. Your external reality of your results will match your focus. The question to ask, am I focused on the problem or the solution? On the past or on the future? On what I want or what I fear? Or maybe even what you don't want? So are you focused on what you want or what you don't want? Okay, number 2 is rules. These are the unwritten, unspoken, often completely invisible rules that you are still obeying. They can be tribal rules, cultural rules, family rules, and these scripts will say things like, people like me don't charge that much. That success requires sacrifice. Wanting more is selfish and greedy. You don't choose these rules. It's part of the unconscious. There are often unconscious rules that have been handed to you before you could even evaluate them. And now they're running your behavior. The question to ask is, whose rules am I obeying right now? Do I actually agree with them? The next one is emotion. What is the emotional state that's driving your behavior right now? Because emotion drives action. The question is whether your emotion is driven by fear, by shame, by anxiety, or is it driven by certainty and confidence and purpose? The phantom operator fires survival emotions automatically. But you can learn to recognize them before they run the show and shift their state before your behavior follows. The question to ask yourself, is this emotion serving the outcome that I want? Or is it a survival script from my past? Okay, the last one is environment. This one surprises most people. Your environment, the people around you, the physical space you work in, the social dynamics you're embedded in, is constantly sending signals to the phantom operator about the level of performance that is expected and acceptable. If you're surrounded by people who aren't playing at a high level that you're trying to reach, the phantom operator reads that as a threat. If you stand out too much, you might lose the tribe, so you end up pulling back. Have you heard the saying that you become the average of the people you hang out with? So if you're hanging out with millionaires, you're most likely to become a millionaire as well. But if you're hanging out with $50,000 a year people, you're going to continue to stay at that level. And if you begin to succeed, they will find ways to bring you down so they can keep you at that level. So here's how to use this one. The next time you feel yourself pulling back, procrastinating, overthinking, avoiding, retreating, run the free checklist. Which of these fours are being hijacked? Is it your focus or your thoughts? What are you thinking about? Is it the rules you're creating, the unconscious rules that are dictating what you do and what you do not do, how high you can succeed and how far you can go? Or is it your emotions? Are your emotions being hijacked by the phantom operator so you're not taking the actions you need to take? Or maybe it's your environment. Are people around you not very happy when you succeed? If you stand out and go beyond them and start to succeed faster than them, do they pull you down to keep you at that level? This is a really important tool because once you can name it, the phantom operator loses its grip. You can go from reacting to choosing. And the gap between trigger and response is where your power lies. Okay, the phantom operator lives in the unconscious, in the nervous system, in the part of you that was programmed before you were too old to read, let alone to analyze your own psychology. You cannot think your way past the ceiling that lives below the level of conscious thought. You need a process that goes beyond thought, that works at the neurological level, that updates your operating system directly, that's not explaining the phantom operator and why it should change, but actually installing new programming where the old programming lives. And that's exactly what neurolinguistic programming does. It rewires your patterns, but it also can transform your identity too. In lesson 5, I'm going to show you the complete 5-pillar method that eliminates the phantom operator and every ceiling we covered today. So here's what I want you to do before lesson 5. And here's what I want you to think about between now and then. You've been hitting that same ceiling for how long now? You've been running the same patterns for how long now? A year? 3 years? A decade? Even longer? What if the reason that it hasn't shifted isn't because it can't, because no one ever showed you how it worked? Because no one ever showed you how, and that's what lesson 5 is all about. All right, that's it for today. I will see you on the lesson 5. I'm going to show you exactly how to transform those unconscious patterns. And till then, live in the state of flow using neurovelocity. See you then.